Testing, testing. 1, 2, testing, 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 testing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah.
Hello, hello. Hello, testing, testing, testing.
Okay. Okay, we'll make a start. Croeso I Hustingau 2012, ail rhan. Welcome to the second part of Hustings 2012. We're going to go today through the delegates for NUS Wales Conference, Skill Chairperson, Non-Portfolio Officer, Sustainability and Ethics Officer, Deputy Student Support and Campaigns Officer, Education Officer, Student Support Officer and President. Candidates will each have 3 minutes, up to 3 minutes speech, and then questions will be asked to each candidate in turn. If I could ask all questions to go through Elections Committee, and there's no need to wait until the actual delegate group is in place before putting the questions in. If you can get the questions in for any particular set as soon as possible, I'd appreciate that. If you could just write on the top which group of candidates you want the questions to be made for, then Elections Committee will do the rest. If I could first ask for NUS Wales Conference delegates, Cynrychiolydd Cynhadledd Cymru, Jessica Lee, Alan Minifie, Richard Morgan-Ash and Kay Page to come up, please. Okay, the first one for NUS Wales Conference delegate is Jess Lee.
Afternoon all. I'm standing here as your current education officer to ask you to elect me to be a delegate to NUS Conference. As a previous delegate to many NUS conferences, both Liberation, Nation and UK, I ask for you to vote for me again. Mainly because I'm here to make sure your voices are heard at national level. Mainly because I've also sat on committees at a national level as well, as an NUS UK Women's Committee member and NUS Wales Women's Committee member. I ask that you vote for me today. Thanks very much.
Next we have Richard Morgan-Ash.
Hey, cheers all. I've been to quite a few NUS conferences in my time, unfortunately. I've been involved in the Guild for a long time at lots of different levels. NUS is often seen as not having too much of an impact on students, but it does do a lot for us, and the Guild does directly benefit from its training, so we need to be involved in it. I want to make sure we get our full money's worth out of them, and I really want to go to be able to vote for John Antionazzi for NUS Wales President as he's standing this year, and I think it's really important he gets elected. Cheers.
Next we have Kay Page.
Hi, yeah, just the same as everyone else really. I was your delegate for NUS Wales Council this year, and I really enjoyed it. NUS is something I feel really passionate about, and I'd love to go to represent you guys. I've been here 4 years now, a long time, and I just really think I can represent you fairly. So yeah, vote K.
Tom, no questions? No. Okay, we have no questions for the conference delegates, so thank you. Os allai gael Cadeirydd Urdd, Guild Chairperson candidate Guy Drury, please.
Hi, I'm Guy, and I'm currently a second-year international politics student, and I'm standing to be your Guild's chairperson. I am passionate about democracy and the work of the Guilds here at Aber. But this year, the Guild has done democracy really badly. It's failed to engage with students, instead forcing 2 people to come from each club and society. It's not fair, and it doesn't work either. The general meeting has died a death. At the last GM, we had to give up halfway through, and that was a perfect example of why we need a massive change in how we do our democracy. And it's why I encourage you all to vote yes to the democracy reform proposal that will be put before you as part of the elections. It'll see GMs abolished and replaced by a partly elected assembly model. For more information, search yes to the democracy proposal on Facebook. But whatever model we pick, the Guild needs to engage with us, listen to what we have to say and to offer, and to turn our ideas into action and make sure they work. This could be done so much better. And if you elect me as your Guild chair, I will do everything I can to make this happen. I will live stream all Guild meetings. We've done it today without spending any money and with the kit we already have. I'll make sure there's proper publicity for Guild meetings. A few posters isn't enough. We need to make sure that everyone knows what's going on and how they can take part. I'll make sure there are proper, plain English explanations of what is on the agenda for meetings. People need to know what they're being asked to take part in. I'll publish plain English explanations of what gets decided at meetings. It's vital that students know what gets decided by their guilds and how it will affect them. I'll aim to increase the speed with which minutes are put online to just 5 working days, because with everything recorded, there's no reason we can't have the full written record online as soon as possible. And I'll also run regular open forums for people to drop in and get advice on how to make their complaints known or their ideas happen. I'll hold democracy workshops before Guild meetings to help people write motions. And finally, I'll launch a brand new section of the Guild website, coming soon, that makes it quick and easy for you to put your ideas forward and get them taken on. This year, I've served as a member of the Democratic Procedures Committee, the people who help the Guild chair when he's existing run meetings, and that's given me a lot of experience about how the system works, but most importantly, what needs to be changed. If you vote Guy number 1 for Guild chair, you'll get someone who knows the system inside out, but will change it to make it work better for you. I care about making this work. Please, vote Guy 1 for Guild chair. Thank you.
Okay, we have one question. The new assembly structure relies on committees that already exist, but do not function. It has 89 members. not far below quorum for GM. How do you see the Assembly actually functioning?
Luckily, I recognise the handwriting. Yes, it does rely on things that already exist but don't function, and so a huge part of my job and the role of Mr. Sam Rowles, who's sitting down there, will be to make these things work, because we do have staff that can do that, and hopefully we'll move into a new sort of era in which these things are possible, in which they do work. With the help of Sam, a staff member who's literally here 30 hours a week, 40 hours a week, whatever it is, we will make these things happen. The PGA can exist, the Patricians Union can exist, all this other stuff can work. I see it actually functioning really quite well, because if we make an effort to make it work, then hopefully we shouldn't have any problems. It is a big change, and we are asking people to make huge commitments and say, yes, I put my trust in a model that we haven't tried before and we don't know works. But one thing we do know doesn't work is general meetings, and therefore it's absolutely essential that we change the Assembly model.
No more questions? Thanks, Guy. If I could next have Swyddog Cynaladwyedd a Moeseg, Sustainability and Ethics Officer, Bridie Sedgbeer, please.
Hi, I'm Bridie. I'm running to be your Sustainability and Ethics Officer. If you elect me, I've got 4 pledges which I will carry out. My first pledge is to get a living wage in the union and lobby the university to pay all their staff members a living wage. Second pledge is to have our union have a fair trade future, so in years to come that we can still hold the fair trade banner up and say that we are actually a fair trade university still. 3, to have more veggie and vegan options in the guild. And 4, represent you. I believe it's ethical to pay the staff in the union and the university a living wage of £7.20 an hour. Many people who work at the university and the union have to work long hours or multiple jobs to make ends meet. A small increase in their wages will make a big difference to their lives, and I think that's a real ethical issue that us, a university, should be really pushing as a leader in our community. Pledge 2, a fair trade future, means we ensure that we can carry on being a fair trade university. Our affiliation runs out this year, and 2/3 of our policy has lapsed already. If I was elected, I will make sure that we have a new fair trade policy for our university and union, and to make sure that we have a fair trade future. I'll also be promoting fair trade events such as Fair Trade Fortnight, which is happening at the moment, but I bet a lot of students don't actually know that this fortnight is Fair Trade Fortnight, so if you elect me, I will make sure that next year we have a proper Fair Trade Fortnight which students can get involved in. I pledge to work with local businesses to bring more veggie and vegan foods to our guild, like working with Spartacus, who we already work with, who are in town, to bring more vegetarian and vegan foods to the guild, especially like events where you can buy a pint and a hot dog, but there's no veggie options. Lastly, I will listen to you. I believe that it is my job to actually listen to the thoughts and views of our students and make sure that our guild is actually sustainable and ethical, and it's not just me standing up here putting forward my views, but it's the whole university putting forward their views on how we can make our university and union better, more ethical and more sustainable. Thank you for listening to me, and hope you vote Bridie Sedgbeer for Sustainability and Ethics Officer.
Okay, we have a couple of questions so far. How can the union be more environmentally friendly?
Thank you. Well, I will consult with Geraint and everyone who works in the union to see the actual environmental impact of the union to start with. I don't actually know. I'm just going to say that I'm a first year. I don't know how our union is environmentally at the moment, but that's something I'm going to look into. I don't know all the answers, so I'm going to look to work with the SABs, with the staff members, to see what we can actually do and what's feasible to do and what's reasonable to do. We don't have that much money, but there is a lot of things that we can be working on and that we can do.
Next question. How will you ensure that all societies and events have ethical principles?
One of the things I want to do is work with club chairs and presidents and see how they run their guild, how they run their societies and sports teams. Maybe possibly looking into where they get their hoodies from, seeing if their hoodies are fair trade or not, or if that's something that they are willing to look into. I think it's something that we really need to work with the society chairs and see how they want to run their societies. I don't want to be imposing all these measures if it's not actually feasible for their clubs and societies. But if it is feasible, then I think it's something we should definitely be looking into.
Next question is, what is your plan for the girls' zero waste policy due in 2015?
Don't actually know what the zero waste policy of 2015 is. Like I said, I'm a first year, and I think it's sort of a bit shocking that I don't know what these policies are. So if you elect me as your Sustainabilities and Ethics Officer, I'll make sure that first years, second years, third years, postgrads, international students, mature students all know about the policies that are coming up, because I think it's really important that we actually know what policies are coming up, and if I don't know what this policy is, then what are the rest of the students going to know?
Final question, how will you end university's investment in unethical businesses such as BAE Systems?
Well, I know there was a motion to be passed at the GM. I don't know if it was actually passed or not, about the Sustainabilities and Ethics Officer being on a committee about the investments where the union invests in. I will make sure that we don't invest in anything that is unethical. Of course, we need to look into where we invest, how we invest, but like I said, I don't really know much about this, unfortunately. But I think it's important that where we do invest money, that we invest it in an ethical way and a sustainable way. And if we do invest in such systems, then we should really think about where we're investing as a university and where we want to go in the future.
Okay. That completes the questions for Bridie, so thank you. Os allai gael yr ymgeiswyr am dirprwy cymorth, myfyrwyr a swyddog ymgyrchoedd, os gwelwch yn dda. If I could please have the candidates for Deputy Student Support and Campaigns Officer, Olivia Pruitt, Rod Hardware, Joshua James. Okay, the first candidate is Robert Hardware.
Okay, hi everyone, I'm Robert Hardware and I'm running to be your Deputy Student Support and Campaigns Officer for the next year. I'm running because I want to bring a change to mental health provision, housing and the way support services are communicated to students. On mental health, it's one of the biggest challenges that students face at university, and the help currently isn't really there. It can also be one of the most damaging to their life and their degree. With 1 in 4 people suffering from mental health problems each year, it isn't a minor problem, especially with Aberystwyth having one of the highest depression and suicide rates in Wales. The level of mental health support does not reflect the reality of student welfare needs, with waiting lists that can go into months. But with only 4% of students actually accessing the counselling service, it shows both that not enough is done to promote the services, but also that we can't just isolate where we need to focus on that. I want to see more cooperation between the Guild, the university and charities to bring both training support to the university. I want to see more informal mental health drop-in sessions so that students can come in and sit down in a comfortable environment, especially around exam times. But I also want to work with charities to promote mental health services, to decrease the stigma that surrounds getting help, and to train students more widely to help others. But it's not just about mental health. Housing is also another massive issue. It affects nearly everyone here and can have a huge impact on people's degrees and their mental health. Far too many students feel rushed into signing a contract, often without knowing the quality of the property or the landlords. And there is a lot of scaremongering surrounding it. But cost is also a massive issue. I mean, Aberystwyth is as unaffordable to live in as Westminster, with housing costs which are 7 times the average salary. And of course, we all know students aren't on an average salary. I want to make sure students don't feel rushed into signing a contract without knowing what they're getting into. And I want to run a student housing campaign from the very beginning of the year, so students can come and talk with me and the student support officer if they have worries at all. I want to lobby the university to release their blacklist. Currently, it does nothing because the university won't provide it. So students have no idea which landlords actually have a bad reputation. I also want to see us work closely with the council to make sure we have a voice when decisions are made on housing decisions that affect us. But also, promoting the services are the big thing. Promoting the services, it has been one of the major failings. It's improved a lot, but there's still a lot more that can be done. If elected, I will hold regular walk-in sessions so students can discuss any problems they're having. I will also promote all of the support services, the Guild, the university and charities through a year-wide campaign using posters, booklets and line. Please vote for me. Thank you.
The next candidate is Joshua James.
Hi guys, I'm running for Deputy Student Support. My name's Josh James. Nowadays, heroes seem to be a thing of comics and films. However, there are people all across Aber, and particularly in the Guild, working hard for you every day heroes, if you will. My name's Josh, a first-year law student, and as someone who's seen firsthand the problems facing all the students this year, I want to make a difference to our university for the better. I'm a good listener, and I want to be there for you when you have a problem, of any kind. If I get elected, my biggest mission to be to help wherever I am called. One of the biggest everyday struggles facing students right now is the atrocious position we have been left in with accommodation, a mixture of the university's neglect towards its students and landlords pricing those out of private accommodation has left most students out of pocket and out of luck. That's why I've dedicated 2 of my 3 points in my hero plan to the accommodation situation. Lobbying the uni to listen to students' needs and invest more in its accommodation because it can, and open up channels of communication between estate agents and the Guild to let our voices be heard. Us students are where the estate agents make their money. If we talk to them, they should listen. If we open up sites to bypass their services, it's only going to make them more hostile to the Guild. Another thing I want to improve is internet connectivity across campus. Because so many of the uni's resources are online, it's unfair for the uni to provide inadequate services, meaning that us students can't access them. All of us are also seeing these struggles of everyday student life by now in the shallow pot of money we call student finance. It's likely to be running dry all across campus, and I know it is for me. Whether it's finance, finding somewhere to live, or worst of all, the 7:30 train for Aber, I still want to help, although admittedly I can't do anything about the trains. I want to get the role of Deputy Student Support out into clubs. Other candidates have said they want closer links and for students to know where to go through better publicity, but I don't think that's enough. I want to get to the root of the problem as well. By meeting societies, getting the Office of Student Support out from behind a desk and into student life, I want to be proactive and for people to know about me as a person, not just the rooms behind that door. Because I know from experience it's easier going to someone you know than to an empty room. If you give me the chance, I want to contribute to the effort of those everyday heroes working in your name, tackling the struggles that are hitting us hardest. Vote Josh James for Deputy Student Support 2012.
Okay, next we have Olivia Pruitt.
Prynhawn da pawb, rydw i'n gallu siarad Cymraeg tipyn bach, ond byddai'n parhau I siarad yn Saesneg. Firstly, I'd like to say it's been a pleasure running against these 2 candidates. They're very exceptional to say the least. I know it's been an exhausting week, and I wish you both the best of luck. As outlined in my manifesto, I have 3 key points. Okay, so one is awareness. If I could ask you all a question, it would be this. How many of you sitting before me can tell me you know exactly where to go when you need help and advice, and you know what's available to you? I want to raise awareness of what's available to you. It's the little things that go a long way. For example, we have pictures opposite the Guild reception of your sabbatical officers. I think it would be a really good idea if we had painted lines going from each sabbatical officer along the floor, directing you to their office. Another key point is progression. It's important to continue any ongoing projects inherited by our current Deputy Support Officer. With the intention to widen the scope of support available to you, I know Laura Dickens has done some great work ranging from housing fairs to promoting mental health, and this is something I want to expose. Another key point is representation. By working alongside your elected student support officer and bodies within and outside the Guild, I will support you, that is every student at this university. I have some aims which encompass these 3 points that I've mentioned, which is awareness, progression and representation. I want to extend the role of Freshers Heroes from not just Freshers Week to Freshers Term. I feel this will not only support and expose the services available to you as freshers, but not just as freshers, as second years, as third years, but it will widen participation amongst students and get more involved with the Guild and break down the barriers between the Guild and you. We're a Guild, it's our Guild. It's not just you and the Guild, we have to work together. Another thing I want to do is create a website dedicated to accommodation. Not only do I want to help you find accommodation, but to address the problems that you encounter whilst you're in student accommodation. I've got a job here, and if elected, I will stay here over the summer and work on this and get this ready for September for you. Another aim of mine is to have informal drop-in sessions where you can talk about anything you want, ranging from, workload to anything. It's just an informal drop-in session where I can direct you to the right place, the right way you want to go. I don't want to dwell on my aims too much because I think this is about you. This is not about me. I'm here for you. Diolch, and thank you for listening.
Okay, if I could have all 3 candidates on stage, please, for the questions. Two questions. Okay, the first question is, what experience do you have which makes you suitable for the role?
What experience? Well, I've sat on a committee for a year, and I feel like I kind of know student politics. I know the Guild. I know how to get things. Experience in terms of support. I sat on the student council in school, things like that. I've always go out of my way to make sure people feel comfortable in their environment, and I think that's the experience I can give you. I hope that answers your question.
I've only been here for 5 months because I'm a first year, so this is really the first opportunity I've had to get involved at university level. Previously to this, though, I was the General Secretary to Eden Youth Guild for 3 years, talking to people, arranging events and campaigns within our society. I was also a student councillor for 3 years and a prefect for 2 years as well. So I have had a lot of experience of talking to people about their problems and arranging and being organised. But other than that, I mean, this is my first real opportunity at university level. So thanks.
One of the things that I've been this year, I've worked quite a lot on mental health. I've been working with both the student support officer and the deputy student support officer. One of the big things that we did was during Mental Health Week, we organised the Mental Health Question Time, which I helped organise. On housing, I've had a lot of experience with it myself. I've known quite a few people who've had absolutely terrible accommodation problems, who've had mushrooms growing in the corner. It's been absolutely horrible. But one of the previous GMs, I put forward a housing policy to actually get proper university consultation with the students on housing. It still hasn't happened, but there's still time. So, thank you.
The next question is, how will you stop cases of bullying on campus and within societies, particularly banter?
Well, there's a real problem with the word banter now. I mean, I think we've all heard, it used. There's very much a lad culture going around at the moment, and to some extent that's okay. But it's when people stop realising the effects that it has on people that it becomes a real issue. And I've seen this firsthand with a lot of comments that have been said and made as banter, but it's not acceptable to just say it's banter. When it's not, it's actually offensive. So that's one of the things I think we need to tackle, because there's a lot of stigma around the fact that if it's banter, it's okay. Another thing is, I think we do need to get into societies a lot more. I mean, I've heard it said by all three of us here today that, we do need to get into societies more and talk to people. So I think that's definitely one thing that I'd like to do anyways, and get out from, as I said in my speech, behind the office and into clubs and make a change. Thanks.
Okay, absolutely. I mean, banter can be all well and fun if everyone's on the same page, but if they aren't, then it can always be a massive issue. I mean, if anyone does come to me or come to the student support officer next year, I will work with the societies officer and the activities officer to make sure that we can actually go there, we can sort out what's happening. It isn't fair if people feel like they're being pushed out of societies because of banter or bullying. I mean, it's absolutely horrible, and we need to change it. So, thank you.
This is certainly what the informal session that I was talking about can be used for. You can come to me if you do feel like this. You can come to me. I can direct you in the right place. We can make formal complaints if that's how you want to do it. We can explore all the aspects, all the channels that we can use to get you to feel comfortable in this university. It's your university. It's your student experience that I want to support, and that's how I'll do it.
Okay, the next question is, what will you do to support mature students who will be hardest hit by changes in fee structure? So if we do that, Robert, Olivia, and then Josh.
Okay. Right. I mean, partially as this, I'm technically also a mature student, so I obviously have quite a bit of worry about this, but I mean, I think one of the major things with, I know there is the Mature Students Union, but unfortunately this year has really not got off the ground. There needs to be the support there as a Mature Students organisation to get things going, but I want to work closely with them to actually make sure that if they do have any problems with, obviously with the cost as well as just general support, then I will hopefully be working with the Mature Students Union if we can get it back off the ground.
This role encompasses campaigns as well as support. So if I was elected, I would certainly start a campaign at the beginning of the year to help you. And I think that's the only thing I personally could do for you. That's it.
Well, mature students are thought to be people that have money and want to go back to university to study again, but that's not always the case. I think there are financial services available in the Guild, and these aren't well enough publicised as well. So that's one of the issues. But also, with the fees going up next year as well, that people are going to be expecting more for their money. And I think that's a real issue, that we're going to have to work harder as well as a guild to encompass that, because these people are going to be paying more. And as a side effect of that, you know, they're going to need more support and they're going to be expecting more for that money. So yeah, I think a combination of hard work and you know, really kind of rethinking our plan for financial support and stuff like that will help the problem.
Okay, and the final question is, how will you support liberation campaigns? If we do it, Olivia, Joshua,
Liberation in terms of
liberation, LGBT, black ethnic minority,
so encompasses all.
encompasses every.
How will I support it?
How will you support liberation campaigns?
Firstly, I don't think enough people are aware of these campaigns and groups that are part of the liberation. Certainly, I will promote them via media. Just having a more, this is one of my key points, awareness. Not enough people know, and getting more people involved. If people know, they will get involved. Not enough people know. It's about awareness, and I think that's how I will support, is pushing that key point of mine, awareness. Thank you.
I think I'm right in saying that the Guild recently passed a Liberations Officer motion to introduce a Liberations Officer. I think that was a real step forwards for this. Thanks to Jess Lee and also Andrew Tyndall as well, who's, I don't know if he's out there somewhere. But yeah, I want to work closely with that officer as well. I think that's one of the biggest things. A joint working together as Liberations and as a campaigns officer, I think we'll be able to make a real difference and really kind of get out there and support people and support the campaigns a lot more. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Well, there are actually there are several new roles that were made at the GM. So there are quite a few different liberation officers to work with. I mean, one of the things that I want to do is obviously as a support when it comes to things like bullying is always a massive issue, especially when it comes to liberations. Feeling isolated is always a massive issue. But because there are so many of these new roles, as Deputy Student Support, I hopefully work with every single one of them to actually push any liberation campaign to make sure that these people feel like they can actually talk to me and talk to the Guild. So, thank you.
Okay, that completes the question. So thanks very much to the candidates for Deputy Student Support and Campaigns Officer. Os allai nawr gael yr ymgeiswyr am swyddog addysg, if I can now please have the candidates for Education Officer, Jessica Lee and James Mobley. Yr ymgeiswyr cyntaf, the first candidate is Jessica Lee.
Hi everyone, you actually know me as Jess already. The past year I've been your education officer and it's been absolutely great. I spent the year campaigning with Aberystwyth students and we've actually achieved so much. This time last year I set out a list of promises to you as I stood here and I said that I would deliver if you voted for me as your education officer. I said that I would make extracurricular activities count. This year we helped create a nationally recognised accreditation scheme to work towards your sports teams and societies to make sure they count towards your degree. I said that I would deliver a 24-hour computing room for students in town. That computing room is now open in Laura Place by the old college and it's well used and I'm really proud we delivered this for you. Now we've done a lot, but there's a lot left to do. I love Aber, and it's not good enough that there are no Wi-Fi in halls of residence that are any good. Elect me, and I will secure Wi-Fi in your halls and university buildings, allowing you to do the work wherever you want, whenever you want. If you've handed in work and you've not got it marked properly and you've not had a good explanation, most of us have, let's be honest. Elect me, and I'll ensure that you get clear, constructive, and continuous feedback on all your work, making sure you get the grades that you deserve. We all know that the job market's pretty tough right now as well. To get your foot in the door, you need experience. That's why I'll create an internship opportunities network that will help you with the skills you need to get the job that you deserve. Aber is an absolutely brilliant place to study. I've loved every last minute of my 4 years here, and I've loved working with the students here in Aber, the Guild, and all together as one. This year we can achieve more though. Re-elect me this week and I will get the Wi-Fi in your halls. I'll get you better feedback on your work and the skills you need to get your job, and much, much more. Let's get that job done. Please re-elect me, Jess Lee, number 1 Education Officer, 2012-2013.
Yr ail ymgeisydd, the second candidate is James Mobley.
Right, hi there. You've probably seen my posters around the university at the moment, looking very boy bandish. My name's James Mobley. I'm applying for Education Officer this year, and I hope you guys will view me as good enough to fulfil this role. Basically, the point of the Education Officer is to be there for you guys, to make sure that you guys get the most out of the 3,000 or 1,000 or now 9,000 pounds that you're spending on your education. I want to make sure that you are constantly lobbying me. I will be constantly lobbying the university, making sure your money goes where it matters. Now, the 3 points that I'm lobbying for at the moment, the first one is about accountability, making sure that modules are what you want them to be, making sure that you can hold these modules to your standards. What will happen is there's a module feedback at the end of every single module. I want these module feedbacks to be universal. I want them to be published. I want all of you to be able to see what modules you are picking in the future, to be able to know if they're any good, and to be able to know if you want to do these modules. Any bad modules will hopefully be eradicated because of this, because no one will pick the modules, and hopefully this can only be good for all of you. My second point is about openness. I'm aware that people have been complaining a lot about the Guild not being very open, not being accessible to everyone, people not knowing what's going on. I want to completely change this. I want to make sure that you all know what's going on. I want to make sure that I am accessible to all of you. You can give any criticism you have of me, any criticism you have of the university in general, you can tell me, and I will try and do something about it. I value myself as a very open person, someone who is willing to accept criticism, take criticism, and change because of it. And I believe that is an essential quality for someone in the Guild or in any position at the university. My third point, which some of you have probably picked up on, the printing at the university via your own network is actually possible. Not many people realise this, but there is a virtual private network that makes it possible for you to print from your own computers. I put it on my posters because I just want to raise awareness. I want people to question it, and when they question it, get the answer from me, get me talking to them. People have been coming up to me, it's been quite successful. But I want these things like the virtual private network to be publicised. I want videos showing you how to do these things. I want access to JSTOR and other things to become a lot more easier, online articles to become a lot easier through the university, and the network to be expanded throughout town as the university is currently planning. I will continue to lobby for that, continue to get the alumni funding put into the right places for you. And all that leads me to say is, I hope you've all enjoying this election. I hope everyone's having a good time. And please vote James Mobley for number 1 Education Officer. Mobilise for Mobley.
Okay, if I could have both candidates on stage for the questions, please. We'll do it the other way. We'll just alternate each one. So you go first, then you go first.
Yeah, no problem.
First question is, if elected, what will you do to ensure more women run for key positions?
You first, mate.
Well, this is an issue that can't really be forced on anybody. Obviously, having women in key positions is crucial. We need to have equality across the board. But at the same time, we can't force women to run for positions they don't want to run for. as it is, I would make sure that women are well aware of the positions they can run for, well aware that they are completely free and equal in whatever they want to do. But I'm not going to force anyone. If no women want to run for a position, I'm not going to say we must have a woman on board. I'm going to say, okay, so we've only got men. We'll do what we can. I get very angry when people say that we must have 50% women representation. We must have equality, complete equality, even when it's against the will of the people. If there are men running for positions and no women, then fair enough. If there's women running for positions and no men, again, fair enough. We're not going to rally to try and get men on the board as well. So I will basically just hurry and publicise those positions as well as possible and hope that women and men equally both want to fill these roles.
Thank you very much. I think it's really important that we get women elected in our guild and our student union. I think at the moment we have two full-time officers, myself and Tammy, that are women, but the most important thing is that we have women in positions of power, so they're encouraged to run and they're empowered to run at a further level. So making sure those women want to run in positions is my priority this year. I've done this by ensuring that our NUS Wales Women's Officer has come up here and spoken to women who want to run in our guild elections to make sure they're empowered to run, to make sure that we have women in those positions, so we're represented on a level. Not only that, we've ensured this year that we've encouraged women to get involved in liberation. Liberation was something that I put forward as a motion to this month's GM, and it passed, and I'm really glad that people sat in this room voted for it. Thank you very much.
The next question is: core texts are lacking in numbers within the library. How will you ensure that students have enough access to core texts for their studies?
As your education officer this year, I've sat on Alto Steering Group. This is the alternative learning and teaching methods group that the university currently implements. What I'll do this year is to ensure that we lobby that part of the university to make sure that we are using a lot more electronic resources and computing resources, because at the moment they're lacking. And I think it's important that we invest money and time and effort in those rather than making sure that we're buying more books. We know that library funds are cutting. We know that's going to happen. We can't do anything about that. That's unfortunate due to the government that we've got. But what we can do is implement policy within our union and within our university to make sure that we have alto steering groups lobbying to make sure we have better computing services for JSTOR, for alternative learning and teaching methods, to make sure that we get the grades that we deserve.
Right, well, this is an issue that touches me quite greatly because I'm still a third year at university. In my history department, we have a severe lack of books for a lot of our modules. I remember I'm trying to do a module on the Civil War and I can barely find anything in the library at the moment that's relevant. So I'm definitely going to be campaigning a lot on this because it does touch me. At the same time, I understand that departments only have a limited amount of funding. I'm hoping that with my first policy, talking about the modular evaluations, it will force departments, force lecturers to look more at the resources they have available, at what resources they can purchase with the money they have. I want to ensure that if people do have a problem with finding resources, they can talk to me, they can tell me that this lecturer has given me a reading list which is undoable, I can't find any of these books anywhere. Often I've heard that especially IBA students, trying to access materials that only the lecturer has access to, and they can't physically get hold of it. This is a huge problem, and hopefully modular evaluations, you can tell us that that is happening, you can tell them that that's happening, they will be forced to do something or risk losing you as students and risk losing future students. Yeah, I think that's about it for that.
The next question: how will you get the university to provide value for money on courses with few contact hours?
Courses with few contact hours. Again, module evaluation, making sure that the lecturer is accountable for what you're doing. I really think that is making sure that a module evaluation is directly aimed at this sort of thing. Yeah, I don't really have much to add to that because I've already been explaining that.
This year, the government has implemented a new policy called KISS, believe it or not. It's called Key Information Sets, and it's an online form which basically says how many contact hours each average course will be adding. What I will do is make sure that that is implemented across the institution. And what will happen there is students will be able to look at their KISS data and see whether they're actually getting the contact hours that they're said they deserve. And I think the most important thing here is we get feedback and we ensure that the feedback is given to us to make sure we know how many contact hours people are having and lobbying for it. I'm currently working with third-year Institute of Geography and Earth Sciences students because they're not getting the contact hours they deserve. They don't believe that. So they've come to me as a large group of people. We're meeting with the director of the institute on a regular basis to make sure he implements a better policy for our third year undergrad students. As your education officer, I will make sure that I'll be standing there waiting for you to make sure that we get the contact hours that you deserve at undergraduate level and a postgraduate level, because I think postgrads really are underrepresented on this. Postgrads don't get the hours that they deserve. The postgrad fee isn't capped at the moment, and it can go to whatever price it wants to. And I think what we need to make sure now is that contact hours are improved and increased to make sure that we get the grades that we deserve when we graduate in whatever year you graduate. Sorry, my bad.
The next question is, if the university had money set aside for education, where would you spend it? Just to notify, we've got quite a few questions, so we won't be taking any more questions for this position.
I think, as I spoke of earlier, we hear that library funds are being cut all the time. I think one of the most important things is we invest a lot in our learning and teaching spaces. Our learning and teaching spaces at Aberystwyth University are really substandard. We know that. We sit in A12 and we can't fit a piece of A4 paper onto the desk, and quite frankly, that's unacceptable. If you elect me, I'll make sure that we lobby to make sure our learning and teaching spaces are invested in as much as it's possible. Not only that, but our library services, we know that those library services are being cut. Make sure we're investing in the books and investing in the alternative learning and teaching methods. Thank you very much.
Right. If this, at the moment, this would be an incredibly unlikely situation, but if it did happen, then I would want to invest more in learning resources. Sorry, what's that noise? Oh, sorry. Okay, yeah. Okay. Right, well, that's throwing me off. I would basically be lobbying for resources, making sure that your departments have the suitable resources available to you, make sure they have more resources available to you in the library, making sure the library has better facilities in order to store this. I've heard a lot of complaints about people not being able to find their resources in the library. In the law section especially, I've heard that documents have been put in the wrong places, documents have not even there sometimes. I've heard a few complaints about that. Make sure that there is enough investment in the library and learning resources to make sure everything is efficient, everything is there for you and where you want it to be. I would also like to, if I did get in and there was also more money, I would like to invest in helping the alumni fund. Currently there is an alumni fund the university wants to access that's trying to expand the Aberystwyth network across the whole of the town. I would want, the university is being very slow with this, I would want some of this money to go towards making this happen quicker. I mean, the university should already have done this, and we're struggling to find out much about what they're doing with the money, but anything to get this network is something that we do need as students across the whole town, especially second and third years. Right.
How will you make marking your courses, marking fee across all courses as some are negatively marked or get 0 marks for late submission?
Right, well, this is something I know that education officers have been trying to get sorted for a while. I mean, I know that a lot of the modules in IBERS get 0% grades for any sort of lateness. Meanwhile, Interpol, you can hand it a week late, maybe lose 20%. This definitely needs to change. There does need to be some fairness. In the real business world, most of the time you will not lose out completely if you hand something in late. You effectively get marks knocked off what you're doing. Obviously, you don't want to hand things in late still, but I disagree completely with the 0% idea, and I will be lobbying across all departments in order to eradicate that where it is. As for the negative marks, again, I've been the subject of this. I've been getting 2 1s and firsts currently, and I recently handed an essay, the same sort of standard, got a 3rd. Complained to the student officers and the Interpol department, and that's all been sorted now. People don't do this as much as they should do. People need to be able to talk not only to their department, they need to be able to talk to me. They need to come in to the office, talk to me, or go onto Facebook, go on to know who to email, just be able to get access to me, get access to the people they need to talk to in order to make sure that their modules are being marked fairly. If there is someone who isn't marking fairly, let me know about it. I will be there for every single one of you if you need me to be there.
This is when an iPad doesn't work and you've got to write the answers are on your hand. So here we go. First of all, anonymous marking. It's a policy the university has, but it doesn't implement at the moment. If you elect me, I'll make sure it's policed fairly and properly across all departments. Continuity of feedback is a really big problem that I've been lobbying on the university for the last year. And I think it's a real problem that I think we need to tackle head on this year. My predecessor lobbied the university for a 0 marks policy, but due to the elongated committee process of the university, they've not come to a conclusion for this yet. My priority is to ensure that special and extenuating circumstances are considered before the deadline, as to not leave students hanging in the air when they're really in problems with welfare and perhaps really serious student support issues. Not knowing whether they'll be given the marks that they deserve, we'll make sure that this is implemented across all departments so we don't have a lack of continuity. And finally, the 0 marks is something that has been a really big problem over the last couple of years, and I really encourage that that the Guild make sure there is a policy on this. And for the next GM, as your education officer, I'll be making sure that we bring a policy that the Guild can agree on, that we can take forward to the university, that we can then lobby for at Academic Affairs Committee and at Senate and at Council level.
The next question is, how will you help and support the IMCA president up the profile of the new Coleg Cymraeg Cenedlaethol branch that is opening on Penglais campus this month?
That's nice handwriting. ECEC is something that was implemented by the Welsh Government last year. Basically, it overtook the Federal College, which is basically encouraging students in Wales who want to learn using the Welsh language at a higher education level and further education level now. And it's really important that we as a guild really promote it and really encourage people use it, because there are bursaries that are enabling our students to do the things that they want to do in the Welsh language. And I think Coleg Cymraeg Cenedlaethol is something that we can really push forward as a guild here on this. And I think that I work with the UMCA president in Pantycelyn and outside of Pantycelyn to make sure that the Welsh language is retained and promoted by the education officer and the UMCA president together as a whole.
Right, the main thing that I can take away from this question is that I will be needing to work very closely with the SAB team, with everyone in the guild at the moment. I'll be working very closely with the Welsh Affairs officer in order to make sure that Welsh language is well represented within the university, to make sure that the guild can encourage people to learn Welsh, encourage people to take part in Welsh affairs. And admittedly, I have not been a part of the education office. I don't know everything that's going on at the moment. But if I do get elected, that will definitely change. I will definitely make myself informed of every single thing that is currently going on in Welsh affairs, in education office in general. Every single thing I will know about. You will be able to question me about. You will be able to criticise me about if I get it wrong.
The NUS volunteer accreditation doesn't currently give students any actual credits towards their degree. Could this be something you work on?
Right. Well, in general, I don't think that volunteering is very important. It goes on your CV. People, when you're applying for jobs, your managers will love it. It's basically a gateway towards getting into a job. Just as important, sometimes more important than your actual degree itself. I don't actually believe in giving accreditation physical points towards your degree if you volunteer. Volunteering is in itself a reward. People need to get out and volunteer. People need to realise the importance of volunteering. That needs to be publicised more, how important it is in general, rather than giving you a direct accreditation award.
I'm now writing up my fingers, so I'm going to stop. I think this is a very simple yes or no answer, and I think the answer for me is yes. The majority of people in this room are volunteers in some way, shape or form. Whether you're a social sec or whether you're the president of the rugby club, I think it's really important that you know that you're volunteers. And I think that we have such a high number of student volunteers in this guild that we should be encouraging people to make sure that they're getting the credits towards the degree that they deserve, because they're putting a lot of time into their sports clubs, societies and volunteering services. Simply a yes or no answer. Yes, definitely. It'll help with the Aber Opportunities Network to make sure that you get the jobs that you deserve when you leave Aberystwyth.
How will you help students struggling with courses? Jess.
Having just worked with the information services to apply for some JISC funding, we're going to put together some learning and teaching guides to make sure that students know how to use the facilities that the university currently provide. The International English Centre currently provide a number of courses alongside a member of staff called John Morgan, who implements a number of classes, whether it be how to reference or whether it be how to write something. I think what we need to do is promote those in the Guild and make sure we can put those in the right direction. I think we here in the Guild are a signposting service because we don't need to provide those services. They're already there outside the Guild, and I think it's really important that we signpost people to as and where they need it. If people want help with their courses, I'll more than happy help them with their learning and teaching, but I think it's more important that the professionals help them more, and I'll be signposting to as and where they need it. Thank you very much.
This is one area that I know this university is particularly weak on, some of you might not know, but this university is particularly focused on the research area in a lot of the courses. They don't so much focus upon the teaching. Therefore, a lot of lecturers aren't willing to give up some of their time because they're already busy with trying to write books, do things themselves. In order to help students students struggling with their courses, basically, I will be there at all times. I will be on Facebook and Twitter and webmail. Again, as I said earlier, I will always be there in order to take your queries, in order to help you out with your studies, give you the support you need in order to have the confidence to keep on with your studies if you think that's the right choice. Of course, I will obviously always be there for you if you don't think it's the right choice. At the end of the day, it's up to you how you deal with your course. I will send you in the right guidelines. I will help you personally. I will talk to you. I will be in my office try to be in my office as much as I can and be accessible to all of you. Drop in whenever you want to be. I will also signpost you in the right directions. I will tell you where to go with the academic departments. I mean, that is the job of the education officer. Any person in this position should be doing that.
Okay, the final question is, what will you do to support students who aren't first language English in terms of essay writing?
Right, this one I'm quite familiar with because I live with the head of the International Student Society, and I know quite a lot of people who've asked me to help translating their words, have asked me to help iron out the kinks and put the he's and she's in the right places. I personally think that people international students do need a lot of help. They are underrepresented in the Guild at the moment. They need to become more involved in the Guild, and there also needs to be people who are there to help double-check the essay, to help make sure that they're putting the right things down in their essays. I mean, essay writing is crucial in order to get a good degree, and international students who are incredibly intelligent are losing out on marks just because they put the grammar in the wrong places. And English grammar is incredibly hard to get right. I mean, English students still get it wrong. You still see commas going in the wrong places and everything. How is an international student in 3 years of university time expected to get exactly the same thing right? You see around all the place, there's people who offer money in order to help translate, or to help their friends translate work, in order to help them iron out the kinks. I want to try and lobby for people to help out their friends, to be able to talk to international students as friends and say, oh, I'll give that a look over for you. Oh, that's a bit wrong. No, I'll sort this out for you. I want increased connections between international students and between English and Welsh students and Scottish, UK students, English speaking. I want to make sure that we're all in it together.
There's 17 academic departments in the university, and unfortunately they don't talk to each other all the time at the moment. I think if you re-elect me, I'll make sure that the International English Centre works really closely with information services and the library services to make sure that they signpost you to as and when you need it. I think it's really important that we educate our personal tutors and our academic tutors to make sure that they know how to direct you as students to where you need it as and when. Because I think we do provide the services that students need at the moment. It's just about signposting and directing them to where as and where they need it. And I think as your education officer, I'll make sure that I signpost them to where you need it and when you need it. And I think the most important thing we do here is to make sure that we improve our plagiarism. At the moment, international students are caught plagiarising very, very frequently. As someone who deals with plagiarism cases on a daily basis, with 47 between December and February, I think I will ensure that plagiarism is something the university focuses on in the next 12 months. And I'll make sure that there is something within academic departments that is spoken about at the start of term, at the start of every term, not just the start of September, making sure that we work together as international students, as home students, and Welsh students who aren't first language English to make sure that they get the grades that they deserve.
That completes the questions for the education officers, so thanks very much to the candidates for their answers. Os allai nesaf gael yr ymgeiswyr am swyddog cymorth myfyrwyr, if I could next have the candidates for Student Support Officer Patrick Baker and Laura Dickens, please. Dyma'r ymgeiswyr gyntaf. This is the first candidate, Patrick Baker.
So why do I want to be your student support officer? I want to be an agent of change. Firstly, change machines. A lack of change may seem like a minor irritation, but when you can't get some pound coins and 20p's when you're washing your clothes, or when you want to buy a bottle of water during a late-night essay marathon, it can be a big issue. I will fight to have change machines installed in all university laundry rooms and any other areas which would benefit from this service. Change. A lot has changed since I started here back in 2008. Back then you could get a bus card for around £30, but now the very same bus card from the very same company costs £180, or the alternative costs £60. I propose introducing, and will fight hard for, a free circular route shopping bus, an extension to the Magic Bus scheme, which will have pick-up and drop-off points at all major food shops in town and on campus, from CK's via Poundland and all the way to Morrison's. This bus will make it easier and cheaper for all students to shop where they want, for what they want, and importantly within the budget that they need to. And what you want isn't always easy to find or get, particularly in the online context of the university, the guild, or any of the other websites that we need to visit to find any information pertinent to our university needs, whether they're welfare, financial, academic, or social. I will work with the fellow officers and the relevant bodies of the university to create an Aber student portal, integrating webmail, Blackboard, student record, and all other related online sources into one simple and functional site and app, which will make it easier to find what you want, promote and join sports teams and societies, engage with student media, and in general make the Aber experience more inclusive, innovative, and supportive. So those are my three main introduction policies: change machines, the magic shopping bus, and an Aber portal. Of course, I will also continue the good work and protocols already implemented by previous officers as regards accommodation, the housing crisis and welfare, issues which are perennial concerns of this position. In terms of student politics, I'll be voting yes in the upcoming referendum to eradicate the inefficient GMs, to make it easier for you, the students, to get more done for more people more often. Advice? If you want some, come get some. I will always do my level best to support you and your situation, either through my endeavours or by pointing you in the right direction of who to see. But at the end of the day, policies are just policies, and ideas, they're just ideas. What else do I bring to the table? Well, I bring a wealth of knowledge of the experiences which students can, will, and have faced. I know what it's like to take a medical sabbatical from uni, as I fell off Consti in my first year. I know what it's like to have to change your course, or suffer financial difficulties, or have a difficult housemate situation. And having been a cleaner here in this very guild for the last 2 years, I understand needing a job. I'm not here to make empty promises, and I can't guarantee my plans will be implemented. But I promise I will always work hard for you, and I guarantee I will always be supportive. So please, vote me, Patrick Baker, as your #1 choice for Student Support Officer. Thank you.
Ymgeiswyr nesaf, the next candidate is Laura Dickens.
Hello, I'm Laura, a third-year Interpol student and this year's Deputy Student Support Officer. I'm now standing to be your Student Support Officer. Student support covers a wide range of areas, but I've chosen to prioritise 3, as research with Aberystwyth students indicate that these need the most attention. The first is housing. I think it is vital to continue the Don't Panic campaign, which stresses caution against rushing into signing a contract. Instead, it encourages looking hard for a property which is both safe, suitable and affordable. I will be starting this from September, so the message can reach as many people as possible as soon as possible. Secondly, if elected, I will be able to represent you on the Aberystwyth Landlord Steering Group. Through this, I will not only be able to work with local landlords to ensure that they advertise their property at a more staggered rate, but also to encourage them to let further properties. I will also be able to work with both the landlord and the county council to encourage them to develop the empty properties in Aberystwyth. With this, I also with local estate agents to ensure that they too start staggering their property release dates to further reduce this panic. My next point would be to make it a priority to advertise the HMO office within the County Council. These are the people who can intervene when your landlord isn't delivering a safe, sanitary place for you to live in. I feel it is paramount, therefore, that this service is better advertised. My second point is mental health. It is my intention to continue the campaign for a mental health advisor, which was started this year. I believe it is essential for this support to be put into place. In addition to this, I will ensure the continuation of tea and talk sessions, working with mental health officers from Mind, who can offer an informal environment for students to discuss any mental health concerns that they may be having. Through holding events in this year's mini Wellbeing Week, such as the Mental Health Question Time, we have raised awareness of the stigma that surrounds this subject area. I want to continue breaking down the barriers by holding more events like this and working closely with local charities Mind and Time to Change Wales, who can offer us valuable experience and resources to help in these endeavours. My third and final point is linking up support networks. As I have stated in my manifesto, I would like to create a student support app. I'm pushing for this so that students can find all the support services that are available to them in both the university and the town in one place at the touch of a button. This could even be further expanded to include other services offered by the union. I believe it is absolutely imperative that students know that there is always someone available to support them, and if you elect me, I will work my hardest to see this done. Thank you.
Could I have both candidates on stage for the questions, please? Do it the other way around now, so you'll go first. Okay, the first question is, how much research have you done into your policies and manifesto objectives?
As I said in my speech, I've done a lot of research by interviewing students and doing some polls around the uni during the campaign. And throughout the different campaigns we've run this year, it's been very successful. And so, yeah, that's how I've researched them. Thank you.
I've done some research on some, and sadly I haven't been able to do much on others. The change machines issue has been something that has been a conflict with me in all of my years at university, as I've been fortunate enough to be in PGM every year. I've spoken to accommodation staff, residential staff, and former students, and I've never been provided with a suitable reason as to why we don't have change machines, apart from a potted story about how we once had them and someone kicked one in. In terms of my other policies, at the moment I wanted to focus on the campaign and trying to be creative. But if I am elected, if you do give me the honour of this position, I will get right on it as soon as I get into the position of looking at the books, looking at the current infrastructure, and working on how to get where I need to get to. But in terms of research, I've spoken to a number of students, and there is support for more online integration, change machines, and being able to shop where you want, not just based on where you live. So my research is minimal, but my passion is great. Thank you.
Okay, the next question is, how will you support students who may feel bullied? Sorry, what was the question? How will you support students who may feel bullied?
Okay, as has previously been mentioned, bullying or collective banter can be an issue, as some of us may have seen recently. I think when it comes to a bullying support network, it all needs to go through proper channels, and I would look to maintain everything out of a public eye until any suitable decisions have been made. I think it would be better to make it easier for students who are maybe in societies and sports teams who feel that peer pressure of, I don't want to say anything. They should be able to just come to me and say, well, I'm in this sports team, this happened. Keep it all very quiet. It doesn't need to be a media thing. But I think bullying, you know, a lot of people go, oh, well, it's uni, it's uni. But we need to just make people aware that, no, just because you're adults doesn't mean you're not getting bullied. And we are here for you to come to talk to, work out progressive solutions. And bullying can take many different forms. It could be bullying from housemates, course mates, sports mates. But from talking to my friends when they lived in town in second and third year, they can also be bullying from landlords. So I think we just need to promote all forms that bullying can encompass. And I will always work to progressively promote the solutions and take them to a suitable end. Thank you.
I intend to run anti-bullying campaigns, both about online bullying and, of course, in-face bullying. I intend to do this with working with the other officers, with the liberation officers that have just been elected, and the Deputy Student Support and Equal Opportunities. I intend to get out and speak to sports and societies as well, to make sure that if any of their members are being bullied, that they know that they can come and talk to me. And I think by better advertising drop-in sessions, perhaps ones tailored to bullying, then, well, not tailored to encourage people to bully, but, you know, talking about bullying, then that would be what I do.
How will you support students who are forced to live outside of Aberystwyth because of the accommodation crisis and the cost?
Well, I think firstly I would lobby to make sure that there is some sort of discounted bus pass they could get, so that they could get in and out of Aberystwyth to their accommodation quite easily, and it won't cost too much. I'll make them aware of the different support services available within the university if they are having troubles with payments or anything. And yeah, that's what I'll do.
Well, firstly, if I was lucky enough to get the shopping bus implemented and the magic bus extended, I would look at suitable routes and pick-up points to bring students back into the town. In terms of accommodation crisis and cost, I'd look at securing funding to kind of balance the gap. So maybe whatever the average rental price is in Aberystwyth, however much they have to pay extenuant to that, we'd maybe try and moderate the gap. In terms of coming to the union, because obviously we all recognise that the union is sadly not subscribed enough in terms of events, and if you have to live outside of Aberystwyth, your likelihood to come here is going to be vastly reduced. I'd look at having a wristband or a reward card scheme so that to moderate the cost of taxis or buses or lifts or fuel for you to come in and support the union in terms of sports societies and events, you could then get discount on the bar, entrance to the union, printing costs in the library, just simple little things that could moderate that extra little bit of money that you're paying just to gain a further education and do the best for yourself.
What experience do you have that you can bring to the position? Yeah, if you go first.
Okay. My experience is somewhat varied. Luckily for me, I must admit now that I've never had to live in town, but I have got varied friendship groups with various experiences, and even living in university accommodation, it's not always the holy grail that people imagine it to be. A lot of my experience is more empathetic. As I mentioned before, I understand the medical protocols for if you have to exit uni. I understand about changing courses, and I understand how one little thing in your university career, however potentially minimal, can have a butterfly effect. When I fell off the cliff, it eventually led to the fact that I had to go through my overdraft in an instant. So yeah, my experience is it kind of I hope that it kind of dips its toe in many of the muddy waters that students have to wade through, and I'd like to think that I'd be able to bring empathy and a level head to any complaint that was brought my way.
As I said, this year I've been the Deputy Student Support Officer. I've been working closely on the various projects the Student Support Officer has done with housing and mental health. I've also, in my second year, been in bad accommodation with a very bad landlord and didn't know where the support was. Now I found out where the support is, I want to get it out to students so no one has to go through that. No one has to have the bad landlord, that the council do intervene, and I want students to know this. And yeah, that's it.
Okay, the final question is, what will you do to stop institutionalised sexual harassment?
Wow. It's an interesting question. I think sexual harassment as a concept is only ever looked at from one side. People hear hearsay. They kind of. It's quite ironic that they'll jump to certain conclusions without taking into account that women's lib means they can do whatever they want. So if sexual harassment is institutionalised and is officially brought my way, not only would any investigations be done in a private fashion and put through proper channels, but I'd also look for it to be equal. I wouldn't, always support a woman, and I wouldn't always support a man. I think we all know what this question's about. So.
I'd run a zero tolerance on sexual harassment, and I would take every case seriously, whether it be minor or major. Make sure that I got the other equal opportunities officer involved, so we could both stamp down on it and make sure that all students are safe and feel safe on campus.
Okay, that completes the questions for the student support officers, so thank you very much to the candidates. Well done, both. Os allai nawr gael yr ymgeiswyr am llywydd, if I could now have the candidates for President, Ben Meakin, Richard Morgan-Ash, Kay Page and James Steele, please. Yr ymgeiswyr gyntaf yw Ben Meakin. Ben Meakin is the first candidate.
Prynawn da pawb, diolch yn fawr iawn dod heddiw. Good afternoon everyone, thanks for coming along. Those who don't know me, I'm the current Guild President, and here are a few things I've achieved this year. I run the first Guild survey in over 10 years. I've got funding from ex-students for the graphics downstairs, turning those boring white walls and making them better. I've made the What the Bunk packs to support those who were forced into bunk rooms. The letter I wrote to the Welsh Government was crucial in stopping the merger of Aberystwyth and Bangor. I've started an NUS volunteer accreditation scheme. I wrote a plan to put the Guild at the heart of student experience in Aber. I've done my best to write regular blogs about my work. I've pushed for a Rate Your Landlord scheme to put pressure on poor landlords and estate agents in town. And finally, I got £52,000 worth of funding to get a Guild coffee shop to turn that area over there into an appealing space rather than the drab area that it is now. So many of these plans are underway, and I'm hoping you will give me the opportunity to see these through to the end. But what we've done so far isn't enough. And I'm hoping... what we need to do now is build on the success of the year. We need to start thinking even bigger and making sure the Guild is at the heart of your student life here in Aber. If you will let me, some of the things that I'm going to do, first of all, create a Guild space in town. There's more than 2/3 of students live in town, and we don't expect, why do we expect them to trek up the hill for the services and the support that we provide in the Guild? There are loads of empty properties owned by the university that are sat down in town falling into disrepair, and they could be put to great use by the Guild. This space would provide much needed bookable areas for sports teams and societies. And imagine a space in town where you can grab a coffee, sit with your laptop, and not get kicked out for just using the Wi-Fi. Secondly, I want to sort out the stupid transport situation in Aber. A river of mess students in Aber around. And even though Mid Wales Travel have offered a cheaper service, we now have more buses than this town needs. With the university planning to move departments back to Llanbadarn and the old college, and £9,000 fees on the horizon, we need a free bus route that links all of these places so that students can get to their lectures on time without being out of pocket. And finally, I want to gut this place. Create a new entertainment venue and a brand that delivers nights that students want and have asked for. A club that gives students an amazing night out and becomes the destination in Aberystwyth. A place where you don't have to be drunk to enjoy yourself. So vote for me if you want a president that has delivered over the past year and will carry on delivering for you. Meekin changes. Thank you.
The next candidate is Richard Morgan-Ash.
I decided quite late on in the this year to stand for president because I was getting angry at how the Guild was communicating with students. I think it's a major issue. Students don't know what the Guild is, they don't know what it does, even when it offers very good services to students. I mean, we use electronic communication a bit, but even there it's still been lacking. But that said, most students don't actually read all their emails, they skip over them, especially when they're long ones detailing everything. We need to have better communication in the Guild. I want to make sure that there are poster boards all around campus in town that both the Guild, clubs and societies and students themselves can use so that people know what's going on, especially when our clubs and societies run so many brilliant events. I want to make sure people know what they're doing. Actually, it's quite an odd policy, the poster board policy, but the Guild's never acted on it. We need open communication so that students know what's going on, so they can be involved, so they can be engaged with the Guild rather than just being told, oh, this happened, oh, you missed it, that's a pity. But there's no shortage of stuff a president can do. Especially the big problem at the moment is they often decide what's going to go on, the Guild gets on with it, but students don't know until it happens and there's minimal engagement. So you can't say the president's going to just do a few things. There's so many things that students are worried about, and there's things that crop up all through the year, like the bunk bed situation at the end of the for last year. But look, a few specific policies. We know housing's been an issue, but it's not a new issue. It has been for years. We need to act on that. I want to make sure we do have that official Guild lettings agency, rating board, but I want to try and actually get an official Guild letting agency, so the Guild starts letting out properties from landlords itself. It's possible other Guilds do it around the country, and it would be both money only for the Guild, but also improve the standard of housing for Aberystwyth. Transport, we've all seen the big mess with buses this year. But it's not just the buses. We need to work on getting back the cheaper bus pass and possibly free bus routes, but we also need to work on transport getting to and from Aberystwyth. 2 trains now isn't good enough, and it can add up if you're someone who needs to go home frequently. We need to fix that. We need to make sure that there's good offers available for students at all times. Guild Entertainment Services, the Guild has had a massive shortfall in communication, in uptake this year. It's not seeing the same amount of people coming here spending their money that it needs to survive as an entity. We need to renovate that. We need to make sure that students are involved because they have lots of great ideas. We see societies like ACOG running their events here, but the Guild needs to support them further in advertising that sort of stuff and making sure it's as easy as possible for them to do it. Guild democracy engagement this year has been shockingly poor in a lot of ways. We need to work on this. It's something I'm quite passionate about. I've worked for it for years. There's no shortage of issues to deal with. You all have your own personal issues that you're very passionate about. I'm passionate about mental health. We need an open Guild that encourages real engagement with a president willing to work for everyone and debate every single issue that students care about. Thank you.
Next candidate is Kay Page.
Hi everyone, I'm Kay and I'm running to be your guild president. I've been involved with guild politics for about 2 years now, and the reason I didn't get involved earlier was because I didn't really know much about it. This needs to change. If elected, I propose that we hold a series of sabbatical surgeries where students can hold their officers to account, question what's being done, and also ask for advice. I will ensure that the officers can actually come out of the office and meet students, holding the sabbatical surgeries in halls of residence, such as Pembrose and things like that. I want to see a forum on the webpage so that students can actually communicate with each other, and also accommodation can be advertised, because at the moment you see it everywhere. It's on Facebook, it's on walls, it's sort of quite complicated to find. So I want to see that all condensed into one location. My third policy is that I'd also like to see top-up machines in all the 24-hour computer rooms, as at the moment that seems to be something that bugs students. I have a lot of other ideas, so I'm just going to run through some of those with you. Accommodation is obviously a major issue that everyone's mentioned. It's not something that can be solved overnight. I think we're all aware of that. If elected, I will ensure that, that we put pressure on the private landlords to up the quality and to lower the prices, because at the moment it's unacceptable. I was a PhD student, and I've been in Carmarthen, and I've been getting accommodation for £40 a week, and it's incredible standard, so we need to make sure we can compete. I also want to see investment in the empty properties, as the other candidates have said. It really shocks me that none of the presidential candidates, including myself, I'm to blame as well, have not mentioned mental health in our manifestos. It's actually something I'm really passionate about. And I do think we need to continue the work of the current guild and work towards a mental health advisor being employed. I also want to see a series of workshops set up, say once every week, to address issues like anxiety, depression, or OCD, things like that. And we need to raise awareness of it, because at the moment there's still a stigma surrounding mental health, and it's not acceptable, especially considering the high rates of it in Aberystwyth. Societies, obviously there's been a lot mentioned about bullying, and I do personally think that's something we need to look at. It needs to become clear to people what options are available to them if they are being bullied, particularly with regard to societies. There need to be clear channels where students can turn if they are feeling pressured or bullied or anything like that. I think we need to sort of observe bullying week, and also maybe get the drama societies involved, get them to do some enactments and plays, things like that, just raise the profile of it and make people aware that it's not just something that happens in schools, because I think that's something that people generally feel. Lastly, just to finish off with, I'd like to say a massive thank you to my fellow candidates who've shown great camaraderie during this whole process. There's been nothing but positive campaigning between us all. And I'd also like to thank the election committee for all the hard work they've been doing, because they've been everywhere over the last few weeks. So yeah, thank you, and okay.
Yr ymgeiswyr nesaf yw James Steele. The next candidate is James Steele.
Prynhawn da, James Steele ydw i. Ymgeisydd wai gyfer llawyth ar endeb. Good afternoon. I'm James Steele, and I'm standing for President. Welfare provision is the essential thing that this guild provides for our students. Welfare stretches across a broad swathe of issues, from housing to mental health. Now, the housing issue is the main issue which I'm standing for. The housing in Aberystwyth and the situation with private landlords, letting agents, and the university, in some situations is morally reprehensible. When you pay for a service from a landlord, a letting agent, or the university, the standard of housing that you should get should be the best possible. And I will support up to the hilt any student that wants to take action, be it legal, writing letters, campaigning, anything, any action they want to take against poor housing in Aberystwyth. It is essential that you know your rights when you buy housing. When you pay for something, it is absolutely essential. Moving on. Mental health, as Kay said, is something that is extremely important. We have a duty to care for our students in Aberystwyth. Currently, although there's been massive step forwards this year, we still don't have enough counsellors. To be told that you have to wait 3 weeks for an appointment is wrong. If you elect me, I will change that. One of the issues that I've discussed going around campus, I hope you've seen me at some point, is Wi-Fi in university halls. that the Wi-Fi connection is poor and that you can't do your work and that you can't access the internet. This, again, comes under the housing issue. It's substandard. You're paying for something. It should be fixed. It should be better. If elected, I'll lobby for better Wi-Fi connectivity in halls. The democracy issue. Whether we move from GMs to the assembly model. Something that's really important. I encourage you to vote in the referendum. Whichever way the vote comes out, if I'm elected president, I will work to ensure that any system we have is transparent, is fair, and is accountable. Also, look around you. Look at the snot brown colour. I'm going to paint this place. Okay? Thank you very much. Please vote James Steele. Bleidleiswch, James Steele, fel Llawith.
Okay, if I could have all the candidates on stage for the questions, please. Okay, we'll go in reverse order this time, okay? So we'll do James first. Okay, and then we'll start mixing and matching, so then you'll be all over. Okay. Yeah, quite a few. Okay. How would you ensure that liberation groups are encouraged to take part, for example, IMCA and AberPride?
Well, I've been involved with AberPride for the last 2 years. I'm also involved with AberLGBT, arranging the first LGBT Pride event, Pride on the Prom, in June of this year. So this is something that's close to my heart, and I can speak from personal experience on these issues. Liberation groups, Welsh language groups, you know, everything. We need to come together as a union, work together. We need to make sure that we have events on that involve everyone, not just selective societies. So, yeah, I'd open it up. You know, let's get societies involved in our union. Let's get people who are elected officers of societies coming along to meetings in the union to talk about how their society's going, what they think is important, and what they think needs to happen next. You know, it's common sense. Let's bring people together. Let's be constructive. Let's get people together. Let's get people involved. Let's get some passion from the AberPride, UMCA, you know, the women's issues that have been discussed. Let's get people to come together, discuss passionately, and find a way forward. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a really good question. Firstly, I'm proud to have been someone who was backing the liberation officers, which we've just sort of achieved. I think that's a really good step forward. Reiterate what James said, really. I think we need to work with the societies, especially the ones like AberPride and UMCA and things like that. We need to really get them on board. I think the sort of event that the current UMCA president organised this year with the Welsh Fair was brilliant. I think things like that need to be continued and definitely expanded over the next few years. I think organising events as well, like Join Me on the Bridge, which is a women's event, and also Pride on the Prom, things like that. They're all really key events, and we need to organise them. I mean, we seem to do quite well at the moment in some levels, but it definitely needs to be strengthened and expanded. So.
Well, for a start, for, say, AberPride, there's still LGBT bullying that goes on. It's not really heard about much, but it does happen, and we need to keep sort of stamping that sort of stuff out for whatever minority or grouping you may come from. We need to make sure that the various liberation groups are involved in the Guild, that they feel free to come and have their say, that they can get their message out to the rest of the student body as well, so they can, as said, organise events and other things. With UMCA more specifically, I'd work with the UMCA president to try and make sure that Welsh language and culture is pushed beyond those from Wales, so that everybody can get involved, because, well, there's a lot there. It needs to go beyond the people who are already native Welsh speakers.
So yeah, on this point, to reiterate what the other candidates have said, we've already decided to reintroduce liberation officers into the Guild, which will greatly help with representation for liberation groups. And I think, again, working with society is a really core part of this. I've already been speaking to AberPride about sort of bring in a Love Music, Hate Homophobia event into the union, something which we took a group of AberPride members up to Bangor to support, and things like that, like really core events that not only get the people involved in liberations down as well, but help to create greater awareness of liberations in the Guild as well. And I think in terms of like the IMCA side of things, we're in a really unique position as a university with a body like IMCA existing, promoting an amazing culture and language. And you know, it's not like you go up to Liverpool Guild of Students and you see sort of a Scouse students union promoting like Scouse culture and language, and it's something that's really unique to Aber, and I think it's great. So we can just carry on the amazing work.
More than one of the election candidates have suggested that bars and events need a revamp. What changes do you want to see, and will student jobs be affected?
Big changes I mentioned very briefly in my speech is I want to make sure students are more involved in general. Because as I said, there are lots of events that society's organised. We need to make sure that the Guild is there, being involved, and hopefully holding them here, especially so it can help out in the Guild itself. We need to make sure that we work well with the current management we have, improve where possible, hopefully have a proper entertainments committee that students sit on and are involved in for everything, and not just a specific society, say. I said we need students to get involved in actually making this Guild better.
Right, well obviously, as I've said already, let's get some paint tins in here, let's get a plaster up here, let's get some paintbrushes and let's paint this place something other than the drab, snot brown colour we've got at the moment. In terms of sort of longer term staffing and events, this Guild is stuck in the 1980s. We have a 1980s nightclub model, which doesn't work anymore. We need to now look at new funding streams. The coffee shop that Ben is working for, that's something we can look into, and something I'll look into if I'm elected. Basically, if elected, I want to come up with a plan to ensure the long-term financial stability and sustainability of this Guild. And that needs students to be, that means that you guys have to get involved and tell me what you want. So I think an events committee with students on is a fantastic idea. Let's get you involved. Let's hear your ideas. It's your Guild. It's here because of you. Without you, there's no point in it. So let's get you all involved and get your ideas and move forward to drag this Guild out of the 1980s nightclub model and into something that is going to make money and be here for a lot longer than I will. Thank you.
Yeah, I think in terms of student employment, if anything, a push towards a greater, a much bigger entertainment and commercial arm will increase student jobs, and not only just part-time jobs, but I think it'll increase volunteering opportunities for students as well, as some of the other candidates have already mentioned. An entertainment committee would go towards that, but things like street teaming, where students can be actively involved in going out around campuses and promoting the events that we hold in the union. And that sort of ties into better marketing as well. As a Guild at the moment, we're really struggling to get people actually into the building, but we only seem to advertise the events in and on the building. So I think greater marketing and bringing the marketing up to the 21st century and creating like a core brand for entertainment. You can see it in Swansea. Swansea Ents covers Swansea Met and Swansea Union, and they have a really core brand which offers events through several venues, and it's a really core part of the student experience, and I think that's something that we should really embody in Aberystwyth Guild of Students as well.
Yeah, I agree with what the others have said, really, but I definitely think this place needs a coat of paint, definitely. But I'd like to see a more variety of events, really, because at the moment there seem to be some events that have been here for years. Like I said, I've been here for 4 years, so they've been here all along, and they don't seem to get the numbers they used to. So I think maybe doing a yearly survey where you ask the students what they want and what we can improve on and what events are working for them. And because I imagine there's some events that they'd like to see more regularly, like things like beer keller, things like that. I can imagine that they'd love to see more events like that regularly. I definitely think advertising is a major must. I mean, I agree with what Ben said. We only seem to advertise here, really. So we need to expand that and be advertising in town, because we've got a lot to compete with. So we need to make sure that we can compete and we do bring it up to standard.
How would you promote a good reputation for the Guild on a national level?
I wondered if a question like that might come up. Firstly, I think continuing to the events we organise, things like that. I mean, we need to start leading the way on campaigns and things like that. I mean, at the moment there are campaigns like the living wage taking place all across Britain, and ours doesn't seem to really have got very far. So I think if we can start raising campaigns like that and getting them sort of off the ground, then we'll definitely increase the reputation. I also think organising events like marches and things like that. I mean, last year when we took part in the anti-cats marches, I mean, we took loads of people up to London, and, you know, that raises our profile and gives us a good reputation. So making a stand and making our voices heard, really. And also continuing to work on a sort of, with NUS and on a national level like that, I think that will increase reputation.
Yeah, whilst I think it's important to work with a lot of NUS campaigns and a lot of national campaigns, I almost want to say, like, why do we need to focus on a lot of that stuff primarily? I mean, look at the place, you know. Let's concentrate on Aberystwyth students. Aberystwyth Guild of Students is here for the students of Aber and not here for a national lobbying body. And I think we need to concentrate on sorting our own house out primarily before we start concentrating more outside of Aber. Thank you. How to promote the reputation of this guild on a national level? Well, it's easy. We tell people what we're doing, but let's do things that are big enough, good enough to tell people about. The Courier does a fantastic job in promoting us to our own students, but still people don't use this place. So it's about firstly sorting out our own house, you know, as was said earlier, and then moving forward and seeing what we can do. You know, let's do things that are worth getting in the national press, and then tell people about it. Let's get students involved, and then we can say what we're doing and what we're doing nationally.
Joys of going last. Essentially what everyone else has said, but we need to remember the Guild isn't just for students who are here now, it's here to promote the image of Aberystwyth for everyone who's graduated, so that employees, when they hear of Aberystwyth, think, oh, that's a good place, that's a good degree. We need to make sure that the Guild is promoting that image everywhere it can. It's very vital, and that said, everyone else has said everything.
What do you plan to do to improve the housing situation?
I think, as you've heard, there's a lot of candidates standing on housing issues this year, but this is something that I stood on last year, so I didn't want to bog down my campaign too much with it. And as the saying goes, you know, too many cooks make a bad broth, or something like that. But at the moment, I'm already looking into creating a rate your landlord, rate your property scheme, where students can go online and actually put pressure on bad landlords and properties, and hopefully something like that will come on board in time for the new Pengleis development, which will free up a bit of space, and then hopefully all the crap landlords will drop off the bottom of the lists. Throughout the year, I've already looked into the possibility of a guild letting agency, but at the moment it's just really not financially viable for us, and I think a system like a rate your landlord or rate your property scheme would be much better. And we've also put a lot of pressure on landlords this year in terms of signing up to accreditation schemes, and off the back of that, it's important to not only make sure that estate agents are signed up to these schemes, but make sure that students know their rights when it comes to them. So if, you know, a landlord's being a prat with a student, then we need to turn around and tell them that, you know, they are signed up to the property or the estate agent ombudsman, and then point them in the right direction to say, here's their rights, here's what you can do about this landlord, let's go and give them hell. So yeah, cheers.
Yeah, again, what Ben said, everyone's been talking about this, haven't they? There seems to be quite a few ideas, but what I would like to see is I'd definitely like to see a rate your landlord scheme. I think that's a great idea, to be fair to Ben. I'd also like to see a lot of pressure being put on the accommodation office to actually use the empty properties in town, because I think it's been said that there's over 100 of them, so they need to be used. It's ridiculous that they're not being used by students when we're having students left homeless. It's stupid. I also want to see an online forum where all accommodation can actually be advertised. Because like I said before, I mean, walking around the campus, you see posters on walls, you see posts on Facebook. It's insane that it's all over the place. It needs to be in one area where students know where to go to look. I also want to see more advice given. I mean, I've looked at other universities and they seem to do sort of housing surgeries. So maybe if we could do them in early October or something like that, or slightly later even, but so that students can actually come along, talk to you, and you can encourage them then not to rush into things and to check the facts before they get involved in a contract.
It's not a new issue, housing. We've seen it sort of progressively getting worse over the last few years, and as I said, the idea of a guild laying agency, well, ratings agency in this case, isn't a new one. We need to push it forward and make sure that as many students as possible actually rate their places. It's no use if only a small minority of students in private housing are rating their places. We need to work with both the university and the council, which has the actual legal powers to do something to improve the situation, so that students know that these powers exist and that things can be made better. They shouldn't be scared of their landlords. It's not something that's going to be solved in the next year. We need to set up a long-term plan, make sure the university realises what it's doing with its intake, and plan for the future. We need to have a proper housing strategy.
Rating your landlord is a good idea. However, in a town that's this small, they always are going to sell their property because someone is always going to want to buy it. This is part of the panic that is created by the housing crisis. And landlords, because we are young students, 20, or 19, 20 when we're looking for our house, they know that we don't know what we should have, what they should give us, and what rights we have. And they take advantage of that. And that's wrong. If elected, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that every student here knows their rights, knows that they need to see a HMO licence, a gas safety certificate, and a deposit protection certificate whenever they go and buy a house to rent. And any landlord that is not up to standard because they haven't got those paperwork, or they've got mould growing in their house, mushrooms in the corner of a room, let's go to the housing department in the council and say this is wrong. And then let's look into taking actual action, whether it be legal or lobbying. Tenants should not be afraid of their landlords. Landlords should be afraid of their tenants. And if I'm elected, I'm going to make sure that you have the power to make them scared.
Apart from social media, posters and emails, how would you make the Guild communicate better?
Wow, interesting question. Rich has already mentioned the poster boards. I think this is something that needs to happen. Let's contact the university and say, you know, as a guild of students, we want to have a poster board in this department, in this place, where we can update it. That's the physical side. There's been talk of developing a mobile phone app. I think that's a brilliant idea. Let's get a mobile phone app put together that lists the union events and the ticket prices, and where to go, where to buy them, at what time they start. Yeah, just simple things like that. We're in the 21st century now. People don't always read their emails. The Guild Twitter feed is undersubscribed. Hardly anybody looks at it. Let's make sure people know about it. It's about letting people know where they can find the information, making it accessible through their preferred media. So let's do that. Just simple, common sense solutions.
Well, James brought up the post board idea, which I actually wrote with a few friends when we put it through in the first place. It was very popular, obviously. Fortunately, one of the sabbatical officers at the time didn't like it and blocked it on the finance committee, except it's one of the things you never hear about unless you investigate deeply. Post boards, though, it's not just in the departments, it's around campus, it's around the halls that we have up here, both PGM and on this side of the hill. Also down in town, there are places where we can do it, especially, costs will vary depending on location, but it's something we need to do. It won't just be the Guild that can put stuff up there, it will be the society and so on as well. But we also need to use the communication technology far more effectively. We have all these different methods, emails, Facebook, Twitter, and so on, but we need to actually make sure that they're used properly and regularly, and the people know what both the SABs, the exec, and the commercial side of the guild are doing. So it's easy to find out, so they don't need to search, and so they don't find something out a week after it's happened.
I think firstly it's important that we do acknowledge the sort of work the communications part of the guild actually do, because I mean when I've been out door knocking, the amount of people who've actually said, oh yeah, I've received an email about the elections, so they are aware that there's things going on. I think the main sort of thing we need to look at here is engagement again. I think although the communication is not used as well as it could be, it is certainly used. I think, again, reiterating what the others said, I think Twitter could be used a lot more effectively, and the same with Facebook, really. I'd definitely like to see more blogs and more vlogs updated quite regularly, because although we have seen several this year, we've seen not quite as many as we should have done, really. And with regard to advertising, I think the GM seems to be advertised quite well. Again, that's just engagement, really, I think. But some things, like there was an event that was Lead the Way, which was for women to get involved in the guild. That wasn't advertised far as effectively as it should have been. I mean, I found out like literally 2 hours before. So I think it's trying to prioritise what we need to advertise and then working out how we do it from there.
So yeah, other than the things that are sort of mentioned in the question, social media posters and emails, I think one of the things I've been working on this year is trying to create a new guild website. Any of you that have been on the current one, it's pretty much the same as this building. It's the drabbest of colours and it's really difficult to communicate, to navigate around. That sort of thing is on the way, and we've, as well as working with computer science students this year, we've now linked up with the computer science department to get a year in industry student so that we can have somebody in the building who's constantly focusing on the website, seeing as though theoretically in this sort of technological age that we're in, that needs to be a full virtual version of everything that we offer as a guild in this building. I also think we need to push to get the sabbatical officers out of the office a lot more. Something that I've been trying to do this year is to sort of get us out of the aptly called the bat cave of Johan, as Johan has referred to it before, and out the front of the building. Unfortunately, there's not really much space for that at the moment, but I'm going to carry on pushing for us to get out of the building. And I also think it's crucial that we use our amazing student media in Aberystwyth. I mean, look at the amazing work that the Courier are doing today, live streaming everything over the internet. And also, I started a weekly sabbatical officer show on Bay Radio on Thursdays 1 till 3. So tune in. Cheers.
The final question is, how will you ensure the Guild remains financially viable but develops services?
Well, this is a big question. It's not an easy job. The Guild has been having reduced incomes for the last few years, and it relies on the commercial services arm to fund the rest of the stuff it does. A lot of it does come down to, well, you start off with the communication. People need to know what events the Guild is doing and what events it's supporting that happen here, because the Guild does make a profit when people here for other events, because they buy stuff from the bar. Need to work on improving the events that happen here, making sure that more people come. We have to, or the Guild is going to go bust at some point. We'll come very close to it. We have to ask the university for more money. There is no simple solution to this. It's going to take a lot of work, a lot of effort, and getting the student body involved to get more involved in their guild so that we can get the money and develop the services for them. We're going to have to work hard at this, and it's not going to be something any person can do by themselves.
Right. Bangor University, which has the same size union as us, gets an extra £250,000 a year from their university, a third more funding than we get. We get 500,000, they get 750,000. So firstly, we go to the university and go, this is our guild, well, we're at your university. We do welfare services in here, and we need an increased block grant. So firstly, I will lobby the university until I'm blue in the face to get that block grant increased. I've got two ideas on additional funding streams. The coffee shop idea, which has been talked about this year, That's brilliant. That moves us away from the 1980s nightclub model and into something that's actually a better space for students to use. There's been a lot of talk, does it need, Starbucks, whatever. That's not the important thing. The important thing is we get a coffee shop. I'd like to see it opened up to local businesses and local coffee shops so they could put forward a bid and come and serve coffee up here, keeping the money in Aberystwyth, not sending it off to some massive corporation. However, depending on the will of the students, it's up to you guys. Secondly, this is also a sort of a way to try and solve the housing crisis. I'd like to set up a guild-run letting agency. So the guild would look after houses in Aberystwyth. There are possible ways that we could get that funded. We could ask the university for a loan, an interest-free loan, or we could look to bring in a third party to give us the money to set it up. And then once we've paid back the loan, the money would then come into the guild. This would ensure the long-term financial stability and sustainability of our guild. Okay.
Right then. I think, as has already been mentioned, Bangor receive £750,000 worth of block grant from their university, and in my eyes, they offer a hell of a lot less than we do as a guild. And I think something that I've been working on since well before Christmas now is the Aber Experience Plan, which outlines to the university what a crucial part in student experience Aberystwyth Guild of students can play. I think in the past, the Guild's gone to the university and asked for more money, but it's mainly been a body that has stood on its doorstep throwing crap at the university, so why would they ever turn around and offer us £250,000 more? I think now that we're building up this critical partnership with the university, we're in a better place to go to them and say, look, we are all working together to create an amazing student experience in Aberystwyth, and we need the money as a guild to be the heart of the campus. I also think that the commercial services and revamping that has a large part to play in this sort of thing. The standard student union model is the fact that we're a non-for-profit organisation. So around the country, student unions tend to work on the model that 1,000 students go and do Jaeger bombs one night on a night out, and all of that money goes back into providing support services and various other services in the union. At the moment, unfortunately, our commercial services works on the process where you go and buy X amount of pints, and that money tends to just go back into producing another amount of pints in the guild. That's not how it needs to be. We need to be making enough surplus to stop providing money for awesome support services and various other support mechanisms in the guild. So yeah, cheers.
I think again, same as what everyone else. It's horrible going last. But I think that we need to make sure that the money that is spent here is actually going back into our services, and in that sense, we need to make sure we're getting people in here. Again, like I said, I'd really like to run a yearly survey to find out what's working, what's not, see if we can get money in here, people in here. I continue to lobby the university for extra money. I mean, the tuition fees that people are going to be paying when they come in September is going to be, that needs to be reflected in the standard of the union we offer for people, and it's not acceptable that they won't give it if they refuse. It's not acceptable that they won't give us any more. So just continue to lobby them and work with them, really.
Okay, that completes all the questions for the presidential candidates. So if you can thank all the candidates for answering the questions. Okay, if I could just issue a few reminders for tonight. 6 o'clock in A12, there is a president's debate being held under debating rules. Tomorrow at 8 a.m. voting starts. Each of you will be getting an email promoting you to vote. The voting ends at 7 p.m. on Thursday. There will then be an elections event in this room from 8 p.m. Entry is free for all. Thank you very much.